What's going on, YouTube? This is Ribs again. How you doing? So today we're going to talk about the best camera for an existing digital shooter who wants to transition into film. When I say best, obviously it's my opinion, but I think this camera gives you the easiest opportunity to jump into film with very little hassle and with lots of adaptability. And when I say this camera, I'm talking about this one. This is the Canon EOS 650, Canon's first EOS film SLR from back in the 80s. So this was actually my first film camera that I ever bought. And I bought it specifically for one reason. And that reason is the ability to use Canon lenses. I was a digital shooter and I was shooting lots with the Canon system and basically was fully bought in, owned a few different lenses, and I wanted to be able to use those on film cameras because they look great on digital. They definitely would look great on film as well. So I decided to buy the EOS 650 for a whopping 25 bucks. This was back when I lived in the US. I got it for $25 on eBay from some random seller. Camera was in fantastic condition, nothing to sort of point out, and it worked immediately. That's kind of the best thing about this camera is, let alone the lenses, which I already said, you just have to put film in here, close the door, and literally everything else happens on its own. You don't have to wind the film, you don't have to do anything. On top of that, like a lot of sort of film cameras from the 70s and 80s, there's a lot of automatic functions here in terms of shooting modes. I personally always shoot an aperture priority because that gives me the easiest opportunity to just pop a bunch of shots without really thinking too much. And I like to control the aperture because often that's what I'm really focusing on, whether it's a portrait and I want some serious bokeh, or if I'm shooting more of a scene or a landscape where I don't need any bokeh / I want more sharpness, then I'll go ahead and stop down to f8 or whatever to get the really sort of high quality sharpness that I want in that image. So this camera affords me the ability to do all of the above extremely easily. As I mentioned, you load the film very quickly and then everything happens from there. So you open the film door, as I'm showing right here, and then you literally put your film in here. You pull the film out just so that it catches with the wheel at the edge there, and all you literally do is, the moment you close it and you turn the camera on, you immediately hear the electronics start winding, and from there it gets you into the first shot. This camera, unfortunately, doesn't wind the film all the way out and then shoot back into the canister, which I actually prefer, because that way you won't lose any images you've shot if you accidentally open the door. This camera shoots one by one, advancing through the film, and at the end, it'll rewind the entire thing. So, not a big deal, but definitely something I would have preferred this have. So as I said, this is my first Canon film SLR, and I actually have a couple. This one was a great way to get started and got me everything I needed, but ultimately it's pretty big. It's kind of the size of a full-blown DSLR. Similar weight as well, despite the lack of digital sensor and all those other electronics. I did sort of upgrade to smaller versions of this after I got myself started with this. I like smaller cameras generally, so it was nice to be able to choose from a pretty big list of Canon film SLRs and get one that was much smaller but still had all of the functionality that I wanted. Every single EOS lens that exists out there for the EF mount will work on this camera. Every single one, without the need of any adapter and with full automatic focus if the lens supports it. So for example, I own this 1740. This thing is a bit of a workhorse. I use this lens sort of all over the world and on my travels, and it's my favorite lens for landscapes. It gives me a full focal range, and on top of that, it's an L lens, so it's super sharp and it works fantastically. I also, for landscapes, decided that shooting telephoto was actually a great change of pace. This one right here is actually a very old telephoto lens, one of Canon's earliest from the 90s. This one actually has autofocus, and it is a 100 to 300 focal range, and it's a fantastic lens. You do have to stop down quite a bit to get really, really sharp images, but that's totally okay if you're shooting in daylight. For this one, I typically shoot around f10, f13, something like that, to get me as sharp images as possible, and then I can push that through the whole focal range. One lens that, of course, every film SLR shooter will use if they have this particular camera is the Nifty 50. That Nifty 50 costs about 100 bucks, new or used, depending on where you find it, and it gives you amazing bokeh at the 50mm focal range, and it's fantastic for portraits. I actually own one, but it's on my other film SLR that Canon makes that I actually don't have right now. I lent it out to someone. But that Nifty 50 is amazing, and pretty much anybody shooting Canon, existing Canon, or wants to get into shooting Canon should pick one of those up. That lens just delivers amazingly, especially on film. It made me fall in love almost immediately with my film camera the moment I started shooting pictures on this particular one with the Nifty 50. cameras are fantastic for anybody looking to jump right into film without really having to think too much. Of course, there's older analog cameras that have, you know, the switches and the film line knob and all kinds of stuff that feel really cool and also look cool. They give you credibility when you walk around in the streets. I'm from New York City, and in New York City, you walk around, style matters a lot. Those film SLRs, especially the ones with the gunmetal and black color combinations, look amazing. These Canon ones, they're pretty ugly, but whatever. They take fantastic photos, so I fuck with it. So that's that, YouTube. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure lots of you have some of these cameras in your hands already, and some may even be considering it. Let me know what you think of the cameras, what your favorite experiences are, and what your favorite EF lens is to put on this camera. Until next time, peace.